some of the steel drum band down in Coconut. Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on, baby. Well, life will still go on, believe me. The world could show nothing to me. So what good would living do me? God only knows what I'd be without you. Hold each other close the whole night through. Of happy times together we've been spending. I wish that every kiss was never ending. Surfing USA. We'll all be planning out a route we're gonna take real soon. We're waxing down our surfboard. We can't wait for June. Good vibrations. Exciting smile. She's somehow closer now. Softly smile. I know she must be kind. I get it right. She makes the Indy 500 look like a Roman chariot race. Like an ace, now you look like an ace. A lot of guys try to catch her, but she leads them on a wild goose chase. Like an ace, now you drive like an ace. She'll have fun, fun, fun till her daddy takes her to her way. Help me run now, yeah. Get her out of my heart. She was gonna be my wife, and I was gonna be her man. But she let another guy come between us and share my plan. Why do you caught my eye?
Mike, thanks for your time. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and we welcome to Australia once again.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Can you believe it? I mean, we're talking about the Beach Boys being around for 50 years.
Almost.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, our first song was called Surfin'. Came out in the fall of 1961. And we began our first bit of touring in 1962.
Of course, not known as the Beach Boys back in those early days, a name that you were responsible for, the Pendletones.
Yeah. Well, the Surfers would wear some jeans of a sort, and maybe a T-shirt, and then over that, to keep warm on those chillier days on the coast, you'd wear a Pendleton Mills shirt, made in Oregon originally, and this nice woolen plaid shirt that kept you warm.
Sounds like a good name for a band, given the times.
Yeah, well, I think the Beach Boys worked out a lot better, actually.
Yeah, I wonder how far the Pendletones would have gone, do you think?
I don't know. But there's all kinds of funny names, like the Beatles. And
That's right. Well, they didn't go too far, did they?
Well, they did. pretty good.
Can we rewind a little bit further? That was, of course, when you guys started to reach your fame. But what about growing up, Mike? There seems to be a lot of different stories about what the relationship was with your cousins, the Wilsons, and of course Al Jardine as well. But how far away did you live from the Wilsons? How often did you see them? When did you start collaborating?
Well, the first I recall of my cousin Brian singing was when he was sitting on my grandmother Wilson's lap singing Danny Boy. I mean, that goes back to childhood, and we would always get together and sing because we had similar musical tastes. You know, we loved the Everly Brothers and the early doo-wop and rock and roll stuff we were hearing on the radio back in the 50s. And so my mom, being a sister of their dad, Murray Wilson, they being my first cousins, therefore, my mom was very much into music. She sang in a trio in high school, did Madame Butterfly and that sort of thing. And they sang on the radio, and that was a big deal back then. And so there was never a time that I can remember there wasn't music. We had a grand piano and organ and a harp in our living room, and I have two sisters that learned to play the harp. The other one played baseball. Anyway, so there was always music on, birthday celebrations, Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays. We would get together, for instance, and do, Christmas caroling around the neighborhood. And so after that, the kids would peel off in one direction, the younger ones would do what they're going to do, and the teens, like Brian and myself and my sister Maureen, we would get together and we would get somebody to sing a fourth part, and we'd do some harmonies.
Yeah.
So it was just always music growing up.
Was there a thought that it would be a career for any of you, do you think?
I don't think we were thinking that clearly about it. We just knew that we liked music and we liked singing, and particularly doing the harmonies, and that there was this thing going on in Southern California, peculiar to that region, called surfing. And there's a whole lifestyle and way of dressing, and even a vocabulary that developed. And so we, being among those who identified ourselves in that manner, we told this record producer who originally wanted us to do a folk song. We said, we like the Kingston Trio and Peter, Paul, and Mary OK, but we're not really folkies. We like rock and roll and R&B. So we came back just a week or so later with Surfin' and recorded it, and within a month or so it was on the radio, and it was quite successful in Southern California. But our first major hit was Surfin' Safari in 1962.
There was a lot of talk that Carl was a little bit reluctant to get into the music game. Is that true?
I don't think so.
No?
He was it was a pretty good guitar player. What it was is we were originally reluctant to have my cousin Dennis. He didn't play an instrument. He didn't particularly show much interest in singing or anything. It was like Brian and I, and he was so young. He was maybe 14 when we started, and so he was just this chubby school kid, So,
yeah.
But no, it was I think Carl was great at music always. He was
very much.
He was just very young. That's all.
So early success, of course, as the Pendletones, and it was certainly not your choice to change to the Beach Boys, was it? That was done a slightly underhanded way, by all accounts.
No, I don't say underhanded. They asked us, "What do you think?" The record's called Surfin'. What about the Beach Boys? I said, "Well, that's better than what we have." So no, it wasn't underhanded. It was just from outside the group.
The Beach Boys, probably that's a great indication. There seems to be a lot of myths out there, a lot of the story gets tangled a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, probably so.
Yeah.
What are you going to
do? Our special guest is Mike Love from the Beach Boys. Mike, even in those early days when you started to get a couple of hits together, did you think that this was going to end, or in your wildest dreams, did you think you'd be on the radio 50 years' time still talking about music?
No, we didn't. We weren't Nostradamus or anything like that. So. But what we did note is that the audience response to our music was tremendous. Our first tour, we were in a place called Minnesota, one of the states. It gets rather cold.
Oh, yeah.
but we were out there in the summer on a tour of ballrooms on the basis of Surf and Safari, our first major hit. And so we put together a string of shows all through the Midwest in these ballrooms, which is what you did then. And we walked out. We did 4 sets during the evening, about 50 minutes each, and then with a 10-minute break, and then another 50 minutes. Did 4 of those. After about the second one, the place was sold out, and Brian and I went outside to look down the road, and the cars were still lined up, wanting to, people trying to get in. But they were actually, breaking windows to try to get in, and so I said, wow, this must have been what it was like when Elvis started out.
Yeah, yeah.
It was that kind of response to the music, and it even just got more and more intense when we had Surfing USA, and then I Get Around and Fun, and California Girls and Help Me Rhonda, and so we never foresaw it being that incredible, but we're thankful that it did.
I suppose Minnesota was a great test case because, it's one thing to sell surf-themed songs to California, but to Minnesota, where plenty of people wouldn't have even seen a surfboard, let alone ridden one, to be popular there, I guess, really proved you were going to be popular everywhere.
Well, that was really kind of miraculous. We had hits in the Philippines and Australia and South Africa and Sweden and England and Germany. We all over the world. Actually, Israel too. So yeah, we had a lot of great international success early on, and so even though we didn't foresee things being quite so incredible, we were able to take what was basically a hobby, that is singing, and the Beach Boys became a career, which is great.
Speaking of careers, Mike, what do you think you would have done if the Beach Boys hadn't have been a great success?
I personally think I would have probably done something in real estate. Nothing tremendously brilliant, but I would have probably liked to have fixed up houses and put them back on the market and stuff like that. My father's company was a sheet metal factory, and so I got some early experience of that, and I knew I didn't want to do that for my life. But we were very fortunate. But I've always liked property and homes and things like that. I probably would have gravitated in that way.
What was it like being superstars, megastars at such a young age? There must have been a lot of temptation and I guess a lot of distraction as well.
Well, yeah, in the early to mid '60s, there's everybody knows about the Beatlemania and all the screams. Well, it was the same. It was Beach Boy mania too. So in fact, in 1966, when Good Vibrations was #1 in November of '66, we were voted the #1 group in England. #2, the Beatles. #3, the Rolling Stones. So that was pretty remarkable. And yes, it was interesting and exciting, and I guess you could get carried away a bit, but it was just fun. It was a bunch of young guys doing creative things, and it was just purely fun.
Well, I walked up to her and I asked